Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Surefire, and welcome to the video, where today we are going to talk about the Celtic Pantheon and the mythology tied to it. So what we know about the original Celtic polytheism is seen mostly through contemporary Roman and Christian sources, as well as few writings found in the Middle Ages, that were left by the Celtic people who were able to maintain their political and linguistic identities. Unlike most religions, we don't see a central source of cultural influence, and because of this, we see a great deal of variation in the local practice. When looking into the Celtic culture, we see it is split between two groups, the Gaelic and the Brythonic mythology. It goes without saying, based on the two groups, the Celtic culture finds its roots in Europe through Indo-European ancestry. That said, this mythology is mostly celebrated in Northern Ireland, as well as parts of the United Kingdom. Looking at important text, we see a vast number of texts from many countries, but we can split it simply with the two groups. The first group is the Gaelic, and looking into the Gaelic, we see the mythology being represented from the myths that emerged throughout history. But looking at a specific example, we come across a book named the Libor na Udri, or the Book of Linestar. When looking at the Brythonic side, we see a similar occurrence of passing legends and tale. But looking at a more specific text, or three, we can look at the Red Book of Hergest, the White Book of Rydric, and finally, the Anarin for a more detailed approach. With deities, while appearing to some as a collective whole, the deities in the Celtic Pantheon are separated into their respective cultures: the Gaulish and Brythonic deities, the Welsh deities, the Gaelic deities, and the Celtibrian deities. I mentioned this already, but there is a great variation in the practice of the religion due to a lack of a central source of influence. And because of this, the easiest way to set up a sort of category system for the worship deities is to simply put them into one of two groups, general and local deities. While this does sound slightly contradictory based on my previous statement about a cultural source, general deities are those that are worshipped throughout Celts in large regions, being one of the few cases of a similar concept in the culture as a whole. These deities are ones that would often represent some form of metaphysical concept, such as protection, healing, luck, and honor. On the other side, however, we now look at the local gods, being just that, deities worshipped only in a certain area based on the nature or landscape. These would be deities that were represented by the mountains, trees, or rivers that were known by the locals in the surrounding area. Looking at the cosmology of the Celtic mythology, we see one thing in common between the different cultures in the form of an afterlife. While having a different name in each culture, the elements that stay the same are aspects that we can refer to as the otherworld. The otherworld is described as a paradise-like world for those who go into the afterlife. One thing to note is that even though it was a world for the dead, many heroes still made a form of journey to the land in various tales. When looking at the realm based on name, small changes start to emerge. For the Welsh, this place was known as Anwen, and it was ruled by Arwan. The realm was described as a world of eternal youth and delights. The Gaelic knew the otherworld as Magmel. Said to be an underworld realm, this place was a pleasurable paradise, located to the west, or a kingdom that was beneath the ocean. The final known name is Tir na Nog, but it is unknown if this was a location inside the Magmel, or if it was just another known name. Speaking of the underworld, we can now take a look at the afterlife of the Celtics. We see the main forms of afterlife in the place of reincarnation and the otherworld.
Reincarnation was a form of afterlife that allowed the soul to transmigrate into different forms, from becoming another human, to becoming an animal, or even becoming a plant-based form.
After the Christianization of the Celtic people, another form of afterlife came in the form of the otherworld, a world said to be the home of fairies and other supernatural beings, and as already expressed when talking about the cosmology of it, a place that was of eternal youth and delights.
Wrapping up the video, I feel it appropriate to talk about the mythological cycles.
When looking at Celtic tales, we see that they are divided into four major cycles: the mythological cycle, the Ulster cycle, the Finian cycle, and the historical cycle. The mythological cycle, simply put, was the pre-Christian pagan past. Characters that existed during this time of cycle were essentially gods. Looking at examples of works, we see numerous prose tales, verse text, and chronicles of pseudo-historical events. One book that we can look at for this, though, would be the Book of Invasions. Next is the Ulster cycle, or Red Branch cycle. The stories here take place during the reign of King Conchobar mac Nessa. The best example and most well-known story from this cycle would be the tale of Cuchu Lane, the Hound of Ulster. Next we have the Finian cycle, or Oceanic cycle. This cycle is more so a prose than anything else, but it follows the exploits of Fianna mac Conall and the warriors of Fianna. The last cycle is the historical cycle, King Cycle, or Cycle of Kings. The last cycle follows the stories of legendary kings such as Cormac mac Ariat, Owain Mór, and Brian Borumha. With the cycles now out of the way, we are now finally at the end of the video. I have to say, as much fun as it was studying the Celtic mythology, I felt like I might have been missing something. Maybe I should have done some research on the neo-pagan religion as it stands now, but considering I didn't do that with any of the other mythologies I've already covered, I feel like it didn't need to be included. Regardless of that though, I leave you with the message I always do. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns for any of the information I provided in this video, please leave it in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like, and if you enjoy my content as a whole, then please subscribe. Either way, I will see you in the next video. Surefire out. Bye!